People who have been in a coma, what was it like from your perspective? Did you know you were in a coma? A friend of mine was in a 6-month coma after an accident. Afterwards he made sure to tell everyone around him to talk to people in a coma because they can hear you. But he noted that they should always tell the person in a coma what happened, where they are and what's happening to them, because he said that his moments of lucidity were mixed with some truly horrifying dreams and he had trouble distinguishing between what was real and what were dreams. He said he just wanted to be told what was real and what was happening. I was put in an induced coma when I was 9 years old after a pretty bad car accident which left me with a fractured skull. All I remember is a bad dream about having a bad headache, and hearing my older sister telling everyone, including my parents, to get out of her way because she wanted to see me. I found out later that this was on the night it happened, and they were trying to calm her down before she saw me. Edit, for those who are telling me to let her know how awesome she is, I made sure to, not quite but almost, hug the life out of her when she got back from work. I remember what put me in a coma, then I remember being unconscious but hearing my parents' hallucinations, and then nothing for 5 weeks. My next memory is at home and my doctor visiting me. Edit, I'm not a Marine, been asked this like 20 times now today. Sorry for the questions I haven't answered, but my inbox just blew up too much. My friend was in a coma about 10 years ago for roughly 3 weeks. Car accident. When he woke up we visited him, and when I was alone with him he told me it was like a lucid dream. The real world was gone and he felt like he was in a world he could create himself for years. He was dead serious too. He talked on and on about how he had a slight understanding that he was not in the real world anymore and that he thought he might be in heaven. About how he felt like he was actually dying and his last few seconds just stretched on and on forever. He said that's what it felt like. He mentioned that he could fly, in the coma dream, and that it was amazing. He spent a little while in the hospital, then went home, did physical therapy for about 2 weeks before killing himself with pain pills and vodka. People thought the pain was too much, that it was an accidental overdose, or that the therapy and the accident made him feel helpless and depressed. Honestly, I think he wanted back into his lucid dream world. The way he talked about it was like the best thing he ever experienced. A few years ago my dad was in a medically induced coma for about 2 weeks. Everyone thought he was completely unconscious the whole time until he woke up and started mentioning conversations people had around him while he was under. This even surprised the doctors. He said that from his perspective it was like he was asleep most the time, but he would occasionally wake up and could hear what was going on around him without being able to move or do anything before he would eventually drift back to sleep. Mine was only 2 days, but for me it was just like being asleep. When I woke up I had no idea I was in a coma. After being in a really bad accident that left one of my good friends, the driver, brain dead, they put me into a chemically induced coma for under a week to prevent brain damage due to swelling. When I first woke up, my memory was much better than it was as it gradually faded in the days to come. I have a journal my mother recorded things in, and I recalled many things I shouldn't have been able to immediately after waking up. Today, I have very little memory of it all, but I can definitely say that having positive people around you definitely helps when you're in a situation like that. If you have a friend in this situation, don't disregard them. Even though your life has moved on, They may wake up one day, and in their mind, not a day has passed since the last conversation they had with you. Dunno. I was in a coma for 11 days, severe brain injury. I don't remember being in a coma or waking up from a coma. I lost several years of memories prior to the coma, and my brain didn't really start to retain information again until 6 weeks after I came out of the coma. I'm told that my personality changed afterwards. I had to rebuild most areas of my life. It sucked, but it was probably a good thing. Although I'd be lying if I said I never wondered what my life would be like if I'd never had the coma. I was in a coma for 3 days following a serious cycling accident, medically induced. I woke up with zero recollection of why I was there or what was said while I was out. It is easily the scariest situation I've found myself in, but I can't say I remember it. I woke up to my mom and dad in the hospital with me and my body in traction of some sort, and that was way scarier to me. I was out for 45 days, no white light, no tunnel, nothing. Woke up and couldn't remember who I was. For 6 months, never really fully recovered, so I just started life again. Turns out I'm a completely different person than I was, and that is a really good thing. I get memories now and then, they aren't pleasant. A woman came and sat by my bed for 6 weeks. Turns out she was my ex-lover. I couldn't remember her. Didn't recognize my mother. ////afterward // This is the second time in my life I have related this much about my life publicly, and it has been good and at the same time really painful. Thanks to everyone for being kind. I wrote this story 7 months ago and published it in the lounge, and I really hurt myself doing it. This time I wanted to share about the life afterwards, and I hope it has been of some benefit to others that struggle with mental issues. This place saves lives, gives hope and guidance to millions of people, and I feel lucky to be part of the community. I'm not sure where I read it, but a girl talked about her experience, and she mentioned that it was like going in and out of sleeping / dreaming. Just when she would feel like she was waking up, she could hear parts of conversations or the TV, but she would slip right back to sleeping. She also said when people would clean her, she could feel them touch sensitive parts of her like her armpit and area. I'm an inpatient phlebotomist, and even though some of my patients are sedated, I still always introduce myself and say I'm here to draw some blood, just in case they could hear me. I was in a coma for 3 days after an emergency C-section, thanks eclampsia. They actually lost me for a couple of minutes after they delivered my twin boys. I remember hearing the sound of my dad crying close by. I could hear people talking around me, but any time I would try to focus on what I thought I was seeing, it was like looking in a kaleidoscope. My mom was in a coma, and she recently told me it was horrible. She was in a wreck that killed her technically 5+ times, heart stopped, and she said she could feel all the pain, hear the doctors yelling that she was being coded. She said she thought to herself, wow, whoever that, it must be dying, and then realizing it was her. She was trying to scream and tell them she was alive, but nothing ever came out. My girlfriend of 6 years and sort of fiancé was in a severe car crash when she was 16. Both of her best friends died instantly. She was the only survivor, but they didn't think she would make it. She was in a coma for 9 months. She was in what is called a waking coma. She retained normal periods of sleep and open-eyed wakefulness, but no higher brain functions. Here are some things about her experience. She doesn't have any memories of the year prior or the year and a half-ish after her coma, and obviously no memories of the car crash. She suffered ATBI, and when she first got out of the coma she would get naked and sexual with people and anger very easily. These are common problems of people who suffer ATBI. She went back to school after the coma, but her brain was still healing a lot. She was held back another year because her brain was still not retaining anything. Today she is a wonderful, bright 30-year-old with a college degree. She has a slight speech impediment, gets frustrated easier than most, and it took her a while to get driving down. Honestly, she still scares the out of me when she drives, but there are worse drivers out there. The person I knew in a coma was in it for about 3 weeks and had no recollection of being in a coma. The doctor was saying his name real loud and he finally woke up one day. The doctor asked him if he was, insert real name. The patient said yes, and whom do I have the pleasure of speaking to? Back to the doctor. I had a seizure and was in a medically induced coma for 3 days when I was 17. To be honest, I don't remember anything. I remember fading in and out of the anesthesia, trying to pull my breathing tube out and that my hands were restrained to the bed so I couldn't. When I woke up and was coherent, I couldn't recall anything from actually being in the coma. They had even moved me to a hospital over 100 miles away. It was really just nothing but black. No dreams, no lights, no voices, just nothing.